Thank you for coming and joining us, whatever time of day it is, wherever you happen to be right now. Thank you very much. And from behalf of the Travel Foundation, we are running this series of webinars to coincide with COP that is taking place right now. Yesterday, many of you may be aware, at COP, the UNWTO had its annual event looking at progress on climate action for our sector, for tourism. One of the pieces that they were announcing yesterday was a piece of work that I've been involved with over the last few months in partnership with them, which has been reviewing all the published climate action plans so far, of which there are around 250 from companies, destinations of all shapes, sizes, and types. And one of the things I was really struck by when someone's knocking at my door, I'm going to try and ignore that because now is not a good time to go and answer the door, because I know who it is. It's the postman who wants me to come and buy a calendar from him. And because in France, the tradition is that you buy calendars from the local work staff at a certain time of day. So I'm just going to ignore him and everyone can be very quiet. He'll hopefully go away again. And we'll treat it like Halloween when the trick-or-treaters turn up at the door and you haven't got any sweets. And anyway, where were we? So one of the things I was particularly struck by was that there was a growing amount of people not only focusing on their own focuses around decarbonization and how they could work on their own core emissions and the pieces of their business that was very much the things they thought about every day, their own staff, their own offices, but looking as they explored more and more the challenges of climate action, what they could do to increase their impact through working with their supply chain, their value chain, the communities with whom they interact, all different pieces and parts of the networks with whom we have influence and impact. And this to me is a really necessary and exciting sort of piece of progress because we are a very networked industry. We rely upon collaboration and connection. So to see this now happening at an industry level is superb, to see those climate action plans focusing on that. When we were deciding what these webinars should look like, we decided therefore that one of these should explore how companies, through their climate action planning, through their climate action strategies, are moving beyond the first part, the jargon, their scope 1 and their scope 2, those core emissions, to really see it how they can more widely connect. And we brought together the three speakers who I'm going to introduce you to now, who each work in a different part of the industry and each have a really great story to tell about how it is that in their organization and in their sector, they are engaging in collaboration. Al Judge is the CEO of Alicat's Mountain Holidays, based in Morzine in the French Alps. Al's company runs luxury, sustainable chalet holidays and experiences for people wanting to come and enjoy the snow in the mountains. And earlier on this year, the company was the Global Good SME of the Year. So absolutely knows what it's talking about when it comes to being a leading small, medium-sized enterprise in our industry. Sophia Murametz is the sustainability leader for TourRadar. TourRadar is the world's largest, it's a platform, it's the world's largest selection of multi-day organized adventures. And if you're looking to find somewhere to do cultural, nature, adventure, they have more there. And I know I went on there just earlier because I want to go on a hiking adventure in France. And I typed in hiking France in November and more adventures came up there than I'd been able to find through my own searches. So it works. And Katarina Torstensen, Kat, is a sustainability strategist for Gothenburg & Co., the DMO for Gothenburg. Gothenburg in Sweden regularly wins world's most sustainable destination. It is a city that is absolutely, it seems, building its identity and its future. This is what we'll talk about, on being seen for the way it delivers sustainability and a circular approach to doing things. Hopefully Kat won't tell me that was wrong. So where do we begin? I want to start with that, very much that question. Where do we really start with this and looking at how we move beyond our core impacts towards rather more? So Al, if I could start by looking with you, talking to you. You work, as I said, with chalets, in essence, with buildings that people go to and be on holiday. People can get their heads around this sort of travel business. It's like people come, they go on holiday, they stay in a building that you operate, they have their experiences, and then they go home. You've got a climate action plan, a strategy, climate, sustainability, social work. When you've been looking into doing this over the recent years, when did you realize we need to move beyond just what we can do as a company, and we need to broaden our horizons to looking to work with our network?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. It's a very good question. I think so. For the last few years, we've been focused on what we can do in-house. So for us, that meant becoming a zero food waste business, having a way of closing the loop on all this food waste we generate and putting it back into our garden to regrow the veg. We've been focused on reducing our emissions wherever possible and then offsetting them. But the moment, I suppose, of that realization was when I heard the statistic that for ski holidays, and in particular for our chalet company in Morzine, which is quite a popular place for British people to come. Most of our clients come to us on a plane from London to Geneva, and then they get on a bus or a minibus to come to Morzine. And the statistic is that between 50 and 75% of the emissions associated with a ski holiday come from the flight or the transport to and from Morzine. And that was the moment where I realized that all of the stuff that we're doing around food waste and offsetting and reducing our scope 1 and 2 emissions is great, but if we want to have a serious impact, it has to start looking at how people get to us, and for me that was the moment.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to go straight on to asking Sophia a similar question. I mean, Sophia, TourRadar is a digital business. You have an office, yes, and people work in the office, but you work digitally. It would be easy, and maybe even this is a process you went through, for a company like yours to think about its climate responsibilities and say, we need to decarbonize our office, maybe we need to get a data center that's a little more efficient, and probably reduce some business travel, and then we're on. But I know from having read your climate action plan that you're engaging at a far more sort of nuanced and complex and network level than that. Can you tell me, as Aldous has, a little bit about the journey of TourRadar to sort of explore the full range of its impacts?
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. Good day, everyone who is tuning in and listening to us and our journeys. So really great question, because that's the point, I always see, like when we started on the journey, it's kind of my role shaped within TourRadar as well, sustainability lead, that when it comes to sustainability, it's always more than just about you and your direct environment. And at TourRadar, we have kind of really unique position, our ecosystem. And as you say, like you typed in hiking in France and you saw 10, 20 tours, organized adventures, like to France. And of course, how do you engage with all of these operators? Because believe me, all 10 or 20 adventures that you saw there, they all operated by different operators. Because at TourRadar, we work with over 2,500 operators on our platform. And when, of course, we, when you look at sustainability, as an add-on to your business, then of course you just think you decarbonize your internal emissions, and then that's it, we're done. But if you look at sustainability as one of the core values of your business, then you take responsibility of your position within your ecosystem, and then you really think twice what your industry needs at the moment, and especially in the organized adventure space. Because per se the product is so complex, of course, then sustainability aspect is very complex as well. And that's when our journey actually started, and Travel Foundation was a part of it as well. We just gathered a group of stakeholders. We had destination at the table, we had a few operators at the table, we had the Travel Foundation at the table, and we just asked them what they are missing in the industry, how we can move forward faster, accelerate the progress, accelerate the decarbonization of our of the supply chains and of our sector, and how actually they see our role, as you say, as a digital business. We are tech company in travel industry, and of course, as a tech company, we have this a gold mine of data that we sit on, and how can we leverage this? We have all of the aspects of itineraries of the organized adventures on our platform. So how can we actually leverage all of this data and support all of these operators on our platform to decarbonize their operations, and that they execute the tours in a more sustainable way. So yeah, this is actually how our journey started on climate action and everything what comes with it.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's finish this question by moving on to Kat. You, as a DMO, representing the DMO, I've had conversations with DMOs in the past where the idea of a DMO's responsibility is that sort of similar narrow vision of we'll create a carbon neutral office for the DMO, and we'll try and have a few more Zoom calls, and we'll be able to sort of, label ourselves a sustainable DMO, and without looking beyond. But I have awareness of what Gothenburg does. Did Gothenburg always see it, or Gothenburg and Co., the DMO, always see its responsibilities as way more than your own sort of core emissions?
Well, yeah, actually, we've been on this journey for quite a while now, I dare say. First of all, I'd like to add that our sort of definition, or our mission, is more of a destination development organization, as I see it at least. We don't only have this marketing mission, but we also are to contribute to the development of a sustainable destination. So we have also that sort of contributing to the development part of it, which makes it kind of not that weird, or how should I call it, that we see our responsibility to be larger than our own small office. We really do see that we have the possibility to really affect our stakeholders and our suppliers and those that we collaborate with. So I think we started more than 20 years ago, working with the events that was sort of in our control. We saw that these were really good tools for understanding ourselves, and also putting the demands on those connected to the events, those suppliers to the events. And then we also, 10 years later, we started working more systematically with our suppliers. So this engaging and involving with stakeholders, with or without sustainability, is truly in our DNA and in our mission, being a DMO owned by the city. So yeah, I think we have seen our potential and also our responsibility quite a few years ago.
Okay. One of the things I like about that Gothenburg does is that it's not, as I understand it, as I see it, you aren't just seeing sustainability in terms of delivering an event that is sustainable, but you also see sustainability as the content, that you look to deliver sustainable events about sustainability, or a secondhand safari where people can go out into the city and, as an experience, engage with the upcyclers and whoever else it might be. Did this come later in the journey, or the other way around?
Oh yeah, definitely later. I've been on the journey. I've sort of been on the journey the whole time, so I've seen this, how it has developed and evolved, and it's such a difference today than it was like just a couple of years ago. So this, for example, secondhand safari that you've been talking about is fairly new, and I see sort of colleagues really making good stuff around this. So it has been sort of evolving throughout the years, and we know we have all all kinds of events, and we try to sort of push the boundaries all the time, but we also know that you won't attend a music festival just because it's sustainable, but on the other hand, it gives you quality, and it also can give you new revenue streams from partners and sponsors. So there are sort of other values in this. So we try really to integrate and normalize the sustainability issues in everything that we do.
Okay. Sophia, there's particular, I'm particularly interested in the project that I read about when I was reading your climate action plan. Now, I read the climate action plans in alphabetical order. So by the time I got to Tour Radar, it was relatively late in the process, and I may have been a skimming phase, but let's say I was still thoroughly engaged. By the time I'd got there, I had read numerous tour operators' climate action plans and adventure tour operators, where they had talked about how they were looking to measure their own climate impact of their tours, and how they were then developing their own footprints or labels that they were putting onto their tours. And the different companies were going about it in their own independent, different ways. And I thought, oh, this is great. I knew of one of them, I knew of two of them, and suddenly I'm hearing of 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever number it was. Then I got to the letter T, and I read Tour Radar, and here was Tour Radar, who works with all these tour operators, saying that you were working on a collaborative project with many tour operators who were working on their individual climate footprints to bring it together. Rather than putting words into your mouth, I'd love to hear more about this project and how it's been going.
Yeah, so yeah, we call it impact measurement tool. So like on one side, we want the tool being able to measure the carbon footprint of adventures that we have on our platform. So meaning measuring each aspect of its itinerary, accommodation, transportation, the meals. And the second part of the tour is measuring the handprint of adventure on its destination, like social, economical benefits of adventures. Why is it collaborative? Because I mean, it's an AI tool, and of course, as much data you feed into it, better it starts to work. And in the beginning phase, like we have a partner with whom we work on the tool. It's Equator Analytics. And we needed a support from operators like Intrepid, TTC, and Explore, because they already did the measurements of their tours, of their adventures, and we needed the data to see how our tool, like how the measurements that the tool spills out to look like is a big discrepancy in between or not, because of course we have the data available on our platform, but it might be not that accurate as we would like to have, because not like tour operators, they sometimes like leave out the data, like the data or exact hotel, like accommodation there the traveler will stay in, and so on. That's why it was important to bring these big players, I would say, like the pioneers of sustainability in our sector, to share what they already have with us, that we can make the tool even better based on their data. And yeah, as you say, like quite a handful of operators already did their measurements, they work on their measurements, but still, as I mentioned, we work with more than 2,000 operators on our platform. And an operator in Peru or in South Africa, they don't have the same resources and knowledge as Intrepid has or Explore, and human resource and just everything. They're just 2-people team. So for them, and that's the thing, like the gap between the bigger ones and the small ones is huge. And for us was important, how can we together with like this upper level, I don't like put the levels and everything, but it's the reality, like how we can together come together and collect the data and make it available for everyone else. Because like of course you can publish your policies online as say this is a template that you can use, but still if you don't give the guidance to those how to implement it or what to do with this kind of data, nothing will really happen. So yeah, like, and this tool, we will we had a first trial on Iceland destination, and then we shared with a few tour operators the data that came out, how they stand with their adventures in this destination and what are the tweaks they could do to decarbonize their tours. And of course, in the second phase, we will go to 10 other top destinations that we have on our platform, which will impact around 20,000 adventures that we have actually on our platform. But yeah, like without these operators who already did the work, like without them, we wouldn't have the idea what we need to work on, because they see the struggle in the industry, like they do their work, but now they realize, like, yes, they do great, but it's still not enough, because if you don't bring everyone else with you, we will not get there where we want to see our industry in 10 years. So yeah, this is how the work on impact measurement looked like in the beginning and looks now. Very exciting. A lot of geeky data. I will not jump into it.
No, let's go a little bit further, because one of the things I noticed when looking at the ways that different tour operators approach this is that, and I'm not going to name names, but to my recollection, only one of the tour operators that I looked at was actively including exactly what Al was referring to, was including the travel of the tourist to the beginning of the experience, which, as Al says, is 75, 80, 90% of the impact of the experience. One of the others said that while they haven't been including it as we speak, they are looking to develop a calculator that was doing so. In fact, there was one other that was including it, but they only used trains, and therefore they were including trains in it. I wonder, I'm guessing some of these companies work with you, and therefore when sitting around a table discussing how you're going to develop a platform-wide set of measurements, there's going to be some disagreement about what is included in the measurement.
100%. And like especially long haul in our industry, long haul flights and how they come to destination. And of course, we all know like the biggest demographic for all of organized adventures or multi-tour tours is American market. And everyone comes from North America to see Europe or to go to Asia. And this is like the huge portion actually of the footprint, because then in the end, to organize adventures, it's kind of a sustainable way of travel, because you travel in a group, you share your carbon footprint, like do it to the big group. It's kind of comes down a little bit. So it's kind of on the table is always discussions. How do you balance it out? So like, yes, the customer needs to take a long haul flights, and everyone know how big the footprint of this is. So how can we, how can the tour look like that you balance these emissions out? Does it mean that the customer needs to stay longer in the destination, so that the social economical benefit on destination is higher than its footprint? So like there, of course, tweaks how you could balance it out. You can, of course, look at it, like from the lens, cleaning your conscience, like to balancing it. But still, like it goes like that. The thoughts are going in the right direction. If you have the opportunity, an alternative, like to cut the emissions in your tour, like how you operate a tour, is it transportation, accommodation, how you work with your supply chain, that they decarbonize what they do. So like your whole itinerary CO2 footprint is lower, and then you can balance it out, that the handprint on destination is getting higher, that customers staying there longer. And then, of course, in the ideal world, how we together as an industry come together, and actually ask the right question about long haul flights, or how you shift to other markets, how you shift to demographics, how you approach this demographic, like your source market. Maybe you show them other itineraries and other tours, because it's up to you what you show and what you offer to your customer. And especially for us on a platform as well, we can, like we can play with algorithms and what we show to what source market. So like there's quite a few experiments that you can do on your end as an operator, or if you have a digital business as well. So like it's a really very interesting topic and a blind spot that is actually becoming, like, more and more businesses becoming aware of it. And I mean, yeah, sustainable aviation fuel, it's not really in our hands and not in our control. So it's kind of waiting for a miracle. Miracle will not happen. So how you can play with what you have actually on your lab.
Thank you. That's very honest and lots to explore there. And I think the perfect person to go back to is Al, because Al, you hinted at it at the beginning that you knew that this was the material, the sizable part of Alicat's emissions, responsibility, impacts, but you can't ban someone from coming. Well, maybe you can, but you can't ban someone from coming if they come by airplane. Most people are not going to do that. But you are doing an awful lot of things in order to address this. I'd love you to share some of the sort of work you've been doing and tell us about how you are looking to really address the challenges of the traveller footprint.
Yeah, sure. So there are various barriers to why people fly short haul from European capital cities to the Alps instead of taking the train, because in most places, especially the UK, there is a good train connection between the two, but there are various issues with it. Price is one. How far in advance you can book, and how easy it is to book and find the information, how easy it is to travel. Often it requires a change in Paris, etc. And so we thought we need to incentivize people in order to make the right choice. So what we started doing was giving people 10% off if they come off their accommodation with us, and we offer both catered and self-catered accommodation. 10% off if they come by train. And then what we did in the subsequent years was to then increase that discount. And now this year, if people come by train and they also forego the jacuzzi, the hot tub that is situated outside most of our chalets, and a plant-based diet for the week, then we'll give them 20% off, which is, that's a pretty generous discount. But we felt we have to incentivize people financially to help them make the right choice. And that's coming out of our bottom line. We don't save that much money by not serving meat and by switching the hot tub off, but we think we do it because it's the right thing to do. And then there's the other thing that we started doing in the last year or so is getting people to make different choices that are less convenient. That's really hard to do. And so you actually really need to make it as convenient as possible. And perhaps we'll come later on in the session today to talk about what we're doing there. But people are much more willing to offset their guilt, as it were. And so what we started doing is we started adding to everyone's booking as standard a carbon neutrality transport contribution. Bit of a mouthful. We need to work on the wording there. But it was basically a voluntary calculation. We calculated what the average emissions per person were, which is roughly half a ton coming from the UK to the Alps. And we added it to their booking. So it was about €9 to offset that, maybe €10. And we added that and we said, if you don't want to pay it, just let us know and we'll take it out, no questions asked. And roughly 80% of our guests have paid it. And we're now in a position where we can make that contribution to an organisation that will offset that amount of those emissions. And that was really interesting. So, trying to incentivize people financially to make a less convenient choice, that's really hard. But just adding without even asking, telling them we're adding this cost to their booking, people are fine with that. And it speaks to, I suppose, the modern time poor society where we're happy to make those kinds of choices, and it's been interesting to discover that has actually really worked.
Have you wondered if you could, £9 for offsetting is £9 for offsetting. You could also be looking at more expensive ones. Maybe we're looking at, say, sustainable aviation fuel funds and so on. Have you played with how much people are willing to contribute on top of their thing?
Not yet. I mean, what we said to people was, if you're traveling further, then you can ask us to increase that amount. No one has asked us to do that yet. And we are only in the second year of doing it. But we haven't done that. That's an interesting idea, though. I think there is more capacity to increase it.
Well, I've noticed it on airlines that you can get, they'll give you, I've seen airlines where they can get 3 choices of offset between the sort of an offset of a £9 for your flight, an offset with a sort of mix of offset and sustainable aviation fuel contribution, and then a pure sustainable aviation fuel contribution. And then the price is suddenly an additional £100 on your ticket. And it's, that, starts asking some questions of people. Kat, you obviously have people coming from all over the world to Gothenburg, coming by a range of different forms of transport. How does the Destination Management and Development Organization work on this?
Well, I must say I really envy your access to data, because that's something that we really miss on the travelers, how they come here. We know that about 80% of our visitors are Swedish, but Sweden is a really elongated country, as you know, and our other largest markets are Norway and Denmark, and they're really close by. So we have a small percentage of long haul. So of course we have people coming in by plane, and it is a challenge, really. And as Sophia was saying about the miracle, we're all waiting for the miracle in one way or the other. But where we can, we try to incentivize or ask people to offset, or mainly we do this through when we do meetings, because they are really keen on keeping their emissions down with associations and professional meetings, for example, and also sort of asking the visitors to do what they can, but it is really hard to do that. So our main focus is really on the supply side, to try to sort of have offerings and experiences that are as low carbon as we can get. But that's, of course, that's really, really hard as well, as you all know. So, but we work, since it's easier for us, it's more it's closer within our control to work with our partners and suppliers than it is to actually nudge the visitors. But that's, of course, that's part of our sort of way of working as well. So we work both on the supply side and the demand side. But it's tricky. Transportation is really tricky. And we have the same sort of experience with trains. I mean, the air industry is much more organized than the train sort of industry is, which makes it harder. So I'm really impressed by your work, Al, with collaborating and trying to sort of make some change on a larger scale, because that's what we need, and to make it easier to use those ways of transportation. Yeah, so that's on transportation to and from the destination. And then within the destination, we are really happy that the city as a public body have bold goals to become close to zero emissions by 2030, and electrification is a huge matter where we are involved, of course, taking the visitor perspective. So yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm intrigued, because I was thinking you would mention about your travel and climate calculator.
Sorry.
So I'll mention it for you. But
Thanks.
Again, having looked at lots of different DMOs and what they're doing around communicating about transport impacts of climate, you have a remarkable project engaging visitors with how they can.
Yeah, it is a good tool. It really is a good tool, and that is Actually, it's thanks to the academy where we work closely we have 2 universities in the city, so we work really closely with them, and they have developed this calculator where you can actually see on a fairly granular level, I would say, what the impacts of your travel is. So you can sort of see the difference between going by an EV or using a fossil driven car, for example, and what kind of hotels you are choosing. So yeah, it is a good tool.
And have you, I mean, I don't know obviously how much it is used, but are you able to gain some insights from it that you're able to sort of plan accordingly?
If we are able to, well, this is...
You gathered, I mean, you said you were impressed by Sophia's ability with Tour Radar to gather data, but you have people coming onto your website and using your calculator and learning things and making this. Do you get insights from talking with visitors or from how people are using the calculator that shows you things that can help you in planning?
Now, since it's both inbound and outbound, and you can really test it and try out things, it's hard to sort of draw conclusions from it. That's sort of really good findings, since it's not connected to a specific travel coming here or a specific event or a specific experience. So it's hard to draw any conclusions on it in that perspective.
Okay. All of you have mentioned when we talk about the various projects that you do that, you know, the challenge, and let's be honest, we all know that this is a challenge, that it is, you represent companies and organizations that are at the forefront and really committed to doing things, but you still talk of the challenges. This isn't easy. I wonder, you know, lots of people are listening in and thinking how they can engage their networks, how they can engage their staff, their competitors, less committed members of management who are more interested in the single bottom line than the triple bottom line, whatever else it might be. The tourists, as Al has been talking about. What have you found in the development of your work on climate, the most effective ways of engaging with different members of your large and complicated networks? Yes, Sophia, you put your hand up, very polite. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can start. It's a really great question. Like we can go through a few stakeholders. When it comes to traveler, I would say, like we did a few experiments on our platform. We ran a survey. We have like, does the customer care about sustainable travel? And of course, everyone always answers yes, of course, and they look for it and everything. So they care. But as a human nature, in the end, the traveler will book his bucket list dream travel experience, which aligns with his budget, with their budget. So meaning it's up to us that the option that the traveler chooses is a sustainable option. So like engaging with the traveler, it's really a hard one, and we're running an experiment on our platform. We have sustainability cards for our operators on the platform, meaning when the operator has some sustainability initiatives in place, they get sustainability cards with with their icons, and we track the engagement on the platform with these cards. So like we really can see if the traveler is opening and reading about it, do they put their mouse around it and everything. And of course the engagement is low, so like they just scroll down. And when we ran the survey, the survey was always if the customer would roll down the page and scroll through these cards, then the survey will pop up. So do you care, like how is sustainable travel is important for you? So like you can already see the, like the difference in there. So meaning it's up to you, like what you offer, of course, like what kind of product you offer. When it comes to engaging with the operators, as mentioned, a lot of them, due to the complexity of the product, really a lot of them, they don't know where to start, or what will be the first step, the right step in the right direction? And especially because we all sometimes think in kind of, like silos and look for short-term band-aid quick win instead of finding one pain point and just work on it. But like they need some kind of guidance. I don't want to say like holding hand, but someone like who would give the value and saying you're going in the right direction. And I think in our world, especially at the moment that we are in, like the progress counts over the perfection. And if you start doing something, like there's no right or wrong, especially when it comes to sustainability, but people kind of, like overthinking everything instead of just doing the first step. So in just talking to them, like, and explaining basic things that, like it's not that, like at the moment, of course, a lot of regulations are coming our way, especially here in Europe, like corporate sustainability reporting directive and everything, it's all coming our way. And I think this even makes everyone even more anxious about, we need to start now. So like, what is my next step? What should I do? Instead of just, without overthinking it, just reach out within your community, within your stakeholders, your ecosystem, because there's 100% at least one person who already did all of the steps and can just guide you through it. And I think, like just this reaching out, the first reaching the hand, ask for help or ask for advice. This is one of the most challenging things that I saw within, like within the sector. Which is really interesting one. I wouldn't think it will be that way. But yeah, there's, I mean, a lot of challenges, but in the end, it's always kind of when you see all of this, when you come together, like bring to the table a few stakeholders, everyone struggles exactly on the same things, but tries to solve them in their own silo instead of just talk to someone who is next to you, because when it comes to sustainability and climate action, there are no competitors, because if your supply chain, someone starts to decarbonize their business, your scope 3 will decrease your CO2 emissions. So like it's win-win for everyone. And even if one of our competitors who sell the same operators as we, and they bring them to decarbonize their tours, it's win for us as well, because our scope 3 will decrease as well. So competitors, when it comes to it, there are no competitors in sustainability world, I would say, or in climate action world when we talk in our industry. Just my few cents.
Oh, I think that's great. And I'd love to hear from the most sustainable destination in the world and the winner of the most ethical small thing. Obviously no competition, but seeing as how you both won, it'd be great to know what you feel is the sort of are these the answers to the same question.
Well, I think one of the best things that we actually have done, or sort of that helped us sort of on this journey, was when we started working with the suppliers 10 years ago, where we actually did this really thorough mapping and benchmarking on what's it like on the destination in terms of mainly environmental sustainability at the time, and what does it look like in the rest of the world, and what is our position here. So we did this and involved the different stakeholders and partners in the process, and then gathered them together with representatives from the city and also politicians, and presented the result of this study or research, and sort of suggested a common vision and unified around a common vision. And I think that was one of the best things that we have ever done, that has helped us so much on the journey forward to involve the players and also try to find a common vision. And then of course you need the brave leaders. You need someone to sort of be there and say, yeah, let's go for it. So I think involving and communicating and gathering around common goals and vision is really key, or has been key to us, very briefly. Yeah.
Fascinating. Al?
Yes, earlier I was talking about what we were able to do in terms of incentivizing our customers, and we had some take up, but it was minimal really, in terms of the training incentives that I talked about. But where we thought we could have much more effect is as a collective, and we set up an association. It's equivalent of a kind of a charity, I suppose, in the UK, but in France it's called an association called Montagne Verte, and so Green Mountain, and that is a vehicle for, so effectively it's a member organization, and we have individuals, businesses, who are all members of this organization, and we have launched this thing called Alpine Express. And what this does is basically it provides people with discounts. To anyone who takes the train gets a discount, not just from the accommodation that we provide, but also from our competitors. They also are willing to offer discounts. But if you want to go to a restaurant for a meal, or to the bar for a drink, or you want to hire a ski kit, or you want to buy a ski pass, we have managed to get all of those participating businesses to offer 10% off all of those things. And the idea is that, when you save 10% across all of those services that you might buy in a ski resort, that is much more attractive financially to help offset some of the cost of both financial cost and the convenience cost of taking the train in the first place. And so that's kind of one that we were able to launch as a collective. The second project that we have done, which is a slightly longer term project. So I'm working with the travel group, which is called it's called Seasonal Business in Travel. And this is a group of tour operators, mostly based in the UK, who serve the UK tourist market operating out of the Alps. And I've been appointed as the sustainability strategy lead for that. And we have now, the group has now got the ambition that by 2030, train will be the preferred way of getting UK tourists to get to and from the Alps. 2030 being chosen because that's the year by which we need to have halved our carbon emissions according to the Paris Accord. And when you look at that agreement, the first thing that needs to happen is you need to get people off short haul plane flights where a train line already exists. Fair enough, they're not going to be able to take the train to New York, but to the Alps they really should be able to take the train. And so we are working on building an international coalition with politicians, with train operators, SNCF, Eurostar, Trenitalia, with ski resorts, so Compagnie des Alpes, who run a lot of the big ski resorts in the Alps, and then actual tour operators as well, so Ingham's and Hotel Plan, etc., to build a coalition with this ambition, because we're not going to be able to do it alone. It has to be across the countries, and maybe not just France and England, maybe Belgium and Holland as well. And that is something that we've just kicked off. It's going to take a long time, but we've got to start somewhere. Interestingly, the business case that we have gone to these businesses with, the first thing we need to tackle is how do we finance this movement? And the business case that we think is most effective is carbon taxation of flights is coming. We've already seen it in France. France has banned short haul flights within France, and I can very much see, I hope that the EU will do that in the coming years as well. When that happens, we as tour operators don't want to lose overnight income from those tourists. So we need to prepare an alternative way of getting people to the Alps now that is convenient and affordable. And so by doing that work now, we kind of manage that transition, and that's the business case. And we hope that each of those groups of people that I just talked about will help finance this work up front, because it'll be beneficial to their revenues in the longer term.
That's brilliant. That's a huge optimism for that working. I'm going to move on in a second because we're coming to the last few minutes of the thing. So there's a question that's been asked. But before I do, I just wanted to ask a similar question to you, Kat. Al just looked at how he turned it round. So rather than looking at his supply chain feeding into his organization, how his organization could work with others where he is part of a value, part of a network, and what they could do that would increase their scale. As well as your work at Gothenburg, you're also the, I'll see if I get this right, you are the sustainability lead for the knowledge group for City DNA, or you lead the sustainability knowledge group for City DNA that represents leading city destinations across Europe, correct? Correct enough for now. And what does working together through a collective, an organization like City DNA that brings together a range of cities where you all come as individual cities rather than, enable you to do that you wouldn't have been able to do just as Gothenburg working with your own supply chain?
Well, I mean, first of all, you quickly realize that we're all in the same boat, and as Sophia was on there's no competition in this. Well, of course there's competition, but we're not competitors in a way, if you see what I mean. And if the competition is driving us in a better direction, then fine, I'm all in for that competition. But it also, this community is so much about generosity and sharing experiences and knowledge, so, and you can learn so much. So I think just sort of the network and learning from other destinations that's really important. And also what I see or would like in the near future is actually to, if cities could gather around some specific topics and sort of collaborate and show the muscles together, and also learn together. I think that could also help us move forward, of course. Yeah, and if you're in things together, it's so much easier to take those hard decisions and be brave together, and also setting a standard that inspire and challenges others. So that's what I think that we can do through City DNA and those types of networks, and also that we do. But I think we could do that on a larger scale as well.
Brilliant. And Sophia, I mean, do you through Tour Radar work as a membership of other networks and platforms coming together that you can, increase the impact that you have even more?
Yeah, I really, I need to write down, be brave together. I really love that. I will quote it somewhere. Kat, I'm sorry. Really good question, Jeremy. I mean, like with other platforms, we don't really, like as Tour Radar per se, we don't really engage a lot with them. But in my position, in my role, I really love to talk to other platforms, like with similar business models of how they do things, because especially being a tech company in travel industry, it's such a unique and different position, and how you can support the tour operators, because as circling back to the beginning, they are the one who are in the front and who runs and execute the tour, and not us. We're just the one, who offer this tour to the traveler and who sell it. And just, talking to others of how they do things, it's already very enriching, and see, where they stand, and that, we actually struggle with the same things, carbon measurement of everything what we sell, because it's our scope 3. But even engaging with operators, as we have our annual event, Adventure Together, that we always bring the operators and travel agents and destinations together to talk about these things. So we always, now 3 years in a row, we always have a sustainability track where we talk openly about climate action, how destinations, and what kind of responsibility destination takes. all of these, like all of these topics, and just to see, like operators being interested in engaging in it, like and asking questions and being aware of it, it kind of already, like, I mean, for me, it warms my heart, but seeing that it goes in the right direction, and then they engage together, and then after that they come together and work together, and they ask and they reach out to each other, because in the end, some of the operators, they share the supply chain. So like they use the same transportation destinations, they use the same accommodations. So like when they come together and work together on their supply chain, it will just accelerate the process. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. We've just got 3 or 4 minutes left, and I've got a question here from Karen Osterfield. So thanks, Karen, which I'm going to ask you all. It very much connects to what you've been saying, in particular one of the stories that Al was saying. But Karen says, so for everyone else, leading on from Sophia's comments on customer drivers, sentiment is in favor of eco choices. We feel this, but price remains a barrier for customers actually selecting the more sustainable options. Al talked about offering incentives where prices go down. That's great, but is it viable for destinations or suppliers to add a surcharge to some of the more carbon heavy options, that people can choose them, but that surcharge then is used to contribute towards a sustainable fund, for example? Many of you think about this as a way of doing things.
One thought from me is I think it is possible, but I think it's possible when people are feeling when they're not feeling the pinch. The majority of our clients are based in the UK, and the UK economy is not having a very good time at the moment, and people's wallets and the amount of money they've got for fun stuff is definitely less than it was last year. And I suspect that being prepared to pay premiums for sustainable options is pretty tricky right now. But hopefully in another couple of years, when things are looking up, or in other parts of the world where people are feeling a little bit wealthier, then I think those choices are a bit easier to make.
Sophia,
I would just like to mention an experiment that we ran on our platform based on the data that we got for all adventures that we have to Iceland. And we ran an experiment, A/B testing. We put on the adventures that are lower on carbon footprint, we put a sustainable tag on it. And for some stores and for other customers, they didn't see the tag on the tour. So it was A/B testing how the customer reacts to the tag. And it actually saw, we saw a slightly increase of click-through rate, so that the customer, they're clicking more on those tours with the sustainable tag than the other customers who didn't see it, and they booked the one with the tag more than the others. So like, as you see, the customers, they want it and they really go for it if you give them the option for it. And it was really interesting experiment to run. And that's why, at least for us, it's important, like to get as much data as we can on carbon measurement, that we can show on our platform which tours are, like not that high on carbon, and then we can start and play with algorithm on our platform. I can maybe even show just the tours that are low on carbon emissions, and the ones that are high on carbon emissions go down. And then it's in interest of the operator to decarbonize their adventures, to climb back, and get the bookings as well. So, but of course, for all of this, you need the data to verify and justify, this. But yeah, it was a really interesting finding for us.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Kat, you can have 20 seconds if you want. Or
yeah,
you can...
okay. And my 20 seconds will be that not all sustainable options are more expensive. It's not always about cost, and that is so important to stress.
Perfect place for us to finish up. Thank you so much, the three of you, for really fascinating contributions. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. I should just finish off by saying that next Monday, on the 11th of December, at the same time, we're running the third of the ones of these webinars, looking at creating the right mindset for action. How can we actually work together to really put ourselves ready to actually get going and move from talking about things to actually delivering? So in the meantime, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of day and a great weekend wherever you happen to be, and look forward to seeing everyone next week. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.